Now, for people who would be interested in this book, what's the official title of the book? So for people that may not be familiar with it yet.
The name of the book is called My Ringside Seat to the AWA. And I called it that because I not only had a front row seat every chance I could get when I went as a fan that I paid for, but also I was able to be a ringside photographer at a lot of the Illinois and Wisconsin events, thanks to some of the photographer mentors I had. And um, so it's meant to be a play on words as my ringside seat, as far as I got to be at ringside to take photos, but it's also my ringside seat to seeing them outside the ring and knowing some of the stories of seeing them on the road and that thing. So, and my goal was not to say anything derogatory or embarrassing about any of the AWA. I didn't always like every one of them, but I tried to include positive stories about them, and I try to include a picture of at least everyone that I encountered during that time. So there's a wide variety of guys in there. Of course, there's my favorites. Who Nick Bockwinkel was my all-time favorite, which I don't think will be a secret after anybody reads it. But he was amazing guy, and I'm really glad people got a chance to know him better after he retired from the ring and got to be a commissioner and also president of the Cauliflower Alley Club. So, and he even made a trek to Waterloo the one year.
Right, so they can come in, they can try out, they can, take the bumps, try that, get those first bumps out of the way, try hitting the ropes, a few other things. I don't want to spoil too much of what all you guys get to do, but it's a fun day. I tell everybody, it is a watered down version of the first day of training. So you can really just think, okay, if I can handle this, I know it's going to get a little bit worse. Can I do it? And for $100, which is the training course is $2,250. So $2,250 or $100. I'm gonna probably try out that $100 before I spend over $2,000 for a professional wrestling school. And it's I think our last one. We had I want to say 10 kids in it. Every single one of them ended up signing up for the full class. And then almost every one of them, I think there's like 2 or 3 of them that ended up becoming refs. But every single one of them ended up being a part of the family. So that's something that I think is really cool, that we were able to find a place for everybody. I know there's the big bad, pro wrestling is for everyone. Pro wrestling fandom is for everyone. Pro wrestling isn't. That's bullshit. We'll find a way, right? It may not be in ring, right? In-ring competition sure as hell isn't for everyone. But if you want to be involved in a professional wrestling besides sitting in the crowd, we will find a way to make it happen. Whether it's your on-ring crew, whether it's you're a sound guy, whether you're a cameraman, whether you're security. If you want to be a part of professional wrestling, we're not going to be the ones to tell you no.
I did want to mention, I forgot a show in July. Saturday, July 6th, Rugged Pro is running at the L Trans Bar in Keokuk. So we got just a few more minutes here. We got about 10 minutes left in the show, but I didn't want to pass that along. So July 6th, Rugged Pro running the show.
Yeah. Steel Cage main event.
But I think you know what I'm talking about. It was one of those, how do you get an organic moment? Especially on the indies, especially on the indie scene, stories, a lot of people were like, stories on the indies, like whatever. But I think Waterloo is a crowd that is an exception to that. I think everywhere we go, there's an exception to the rule. We do a really good story, and we do really good stories, period, in Waterloo. The crowd follows along, and it gives an importance to the match, doing the story that we did with Aaron coming back at the end. It puts that emphasis, because now next year, one of the things people are going to watch for is, hey, did they go through the rope? it's one of those things. We were really proud of how everything came together. We were proud of the payoff, and now, this last match they had together was phenomenal. And this match, last man standing, we've never done a last man standing in our company. We've never been able to do something like this. They're always tough to do as somebody who's been a part of shows where that is the stipulation. It's always awkward because how do you get to that moment? What do you do to get your opponent down? What's where are the dips and the highs and the lows in the match? I think we have a team that can create a finish that's going to be memorable. And I think we have two wrestlers who are going to make the match memorable, period. Ethan is on the run of a lifetime right now. He's so damn young. He's got so much damn potential. He's only scratching the surface. He's been champ since October, and being in his hometown, it's always a thrill to have the crowd behind him. And for Aaron Von Baron, Aaron's never been heavyweight champion. That's another story to tell. Aaron came back off an injury a couple years ago to work with us, and he's been phenomenal. Aaron took a break after the loss of his father, and he was ready to come back and get back down to business. And I think this has been his best run with us, since he's been back wrestling and since he's been with Absolute Pro Wrestling. So, the things that go along with this matchup, the story that's being told, I think people are going to see just how damn these two guys are, period, and just what we can create at Absolute Pro Wrestling, especially with the match stipulation being last man standing.
Al is a big writer of territory wrestling, which if you're kind of like me, you didn't grow up in the territories or get to experience that time, but love reading about it, Al is really the perfect person to have for this. And he's written tons of books. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who just loves territory wrestling. I don't think there's anybody better to go with than, it comes to Al and what he's done over there. He does a monthly podcast where they just go over different territory things. And I listened to it again here today, and just really great. I'm actually having Al on the show here next week. So for those of you interested, we're continuing our Road to Hall of Fame weekend here next week. So Al's going to be our guest next week. So
yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, I've said this before, but I think his research and the development of his spot ratings, I mean, that's like state-of-the-art research, because you think about it, wrestling it's a sport that doesn't have a thorough history, because people always kind of looked at it with a side eye. So he takes the time to go back and go through newspaper clippings and go to different geographical spots and actually go to those libraries, try to track down and piece together part of the history of professional wrestling. And then based on that and where wrestlers were on the card, that determines kind of the level of push they're receiving.
Because again, the territories cover so much, and the thing that's cool what you do is you're only covering like certain time periods. So I feel like you can just keep continuing to do this, further and further down the line.
And at one point that was the plan. Right now, I'm not sure what the next move is going to be. The territories I've covered so far, which are Central States, Gulf Coast Championship Wrestling, and then Leroy McGurk's territory, are three of the most discussed or underappreciated territories of the era. Of course, everybody knows about Florida, Georgia, Jim Crockett Promotions, the WWF, Portland, Southern California, this sort of area sort of in the center of the country, from Iowa all the way down, to Louisiana, really doesn't get talked about as much. So the idea of these first few books was to get them, put them in writing. From there, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go next, but as you said, there's a lot of flexibility. I can stay in these same territories and cover different time periods, or I can go to different territories covering the same time periods.
Very cool, very cool.
It was a moment that I had been grinding for about 7 months at that point. It had been a moment I'd been grinding for 16 years at that point. Just nonstop putting in work day in, day out, sacrificing my body just to make it to that match. And I went in and killed it. And I'm forever grateful that I was able to have that match. I'm forever grateful for the HOC, forever grateful for my dad, just to have this opportunity to do what I love at this level.
Now, with your dad being a referee, obviously he's on the road all the time. Was there ever any, hesitation on his part or even your mom's part about you wanting to get into the pro wrestling business? Because you guys are gone so much.
So from what I remember, back in 2022, I was starting to mention to him how I wanted to train. And he said he wanted to essentially wouldn't have me wait. Maybe he'd start teaching me some of the other stuff, but he'd have me wait until I was 18 through college. And then I kept pushing. And then the HOC opened, and we found that and realized how good of a place it was, and there was no better time to start than then.
So yeah, so for the most part, so basically there was no hesitation on mom and dad's part then to be full go on this.
They're my biggest supporters. All my aunts and uncles are my biggest supporters. My girlfriend, my grandparents. I have a whole support system of love.
So they're playing double duty. So how much are they going to be working as a tag team, and how much are they going to be focused on trying to get the cage match, trying to get the #1 contendership? So it's kind of like so if I were to play a analyst, I would say Supernova has the advantage because they're focused. They've had the belts twice now, and they're definitely focused on getting them. And throughout the Midwest, they've been fighting. Recently, just had another match over in Gladbrook, I believe.
Yep,
I could be wrong, but yeah. And like I said, that's when Gladbrook. That was the street fight, and that's when Cousin Penny got taken out again with the concerto. So they've been going at it, and definitely a good one to see again, because you've seen them before. You're going to get your money's worth from the opening match.
Oh, and again, it just feels like it's kind of like your modern day Hardys versus Dudleys, or Edge and Christian versus, and vice versa, because it's just that feud that's been chugging along here in Eminent Wrestling Alliance. And yeah, I mean, it's what better way than to culminate here at the 1-year anniversary show. And again, it's been a wild 1 year for Eminent Wrestling Alliance, and not a lot of times you see new promotions like this kind of come in and run as many shows as they have, because they're running pretty much, It seems like once a month. It seems like
once a month, twice a month, and the summertime coming up. We are busy. We got a crazy card coming up, and I'd say keep an eye on the Eminent Wrestling Alliance Facebook page for sure to keep up to date on everything that's happening, because we got shows coming up all over the Midwest, all over Iowa for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. As for Supernova and Cobbs, yeah, they don't like each other. It's obvious. And months and a bunch of bad blood. So yeah.
Let's go ahead, man, and keep running on a list of matches that we got here coming up this Saturday. Tama, Iowa, I believe bell time is 6:30 p.m.